You dummy. You unplugged the map sensor. You know, sometimes I cause my own issues. No wonder you're getting error codes from them. Don't understand that. Hey, you know what? Good sign here. Let's see if we can solve our issues from here. We're off to a good start here. Thanks, Bruce. We appreciate your contributions to this video. This is a brand new bottle, and I can tell you, this one has sort of a raised surface right here and an O-ring. Oh, Bruce. Bruce. Guys, welcome to the latest edition of Earl's Classic Cars. We're finally back on the 2005 Honda Accord. We're trying to solve the shift solenoid problem, but we're trying to solve the issues that we were having with it when we were on my way back from an office event on the highway. When the speedometer stopped working, the check engine light came on, the traction control lights came on, the RPMs went from 2,000 to 3,000 up to 4,000. So we're going to try to figure out what's going on with this thing, and so far we're off to an inauspicious start. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So we went ahead and put our OBD2 scanner on here, and we started getting a bunch of error codes for low voltage on solenoid A and B, and also our map sensor. And it dawned on me after I went to study those codes that, you dummy, you unplugged the map sensor. You unplugged solenoid A and B. No wonder you're getting error codes from them. You know, sometimes I cause my own issues. Now I'm going to plug these things back in, put our OBD2 sensor back on it, and see what check engine codes we really were getting when this thing malfunctioned on the highway, not the ones that I caused myself. Of course, I unplugged the map sensor because I had to get the air box out of the way, and this was in the way of the air box, but I should have plugged it back in. And of course, I went to unplug these things because I'm thinking, well, I need to clean that all off, get the connections all cleaned off and everything. And so I unplugged them. But of course, I should have plugged it back in before I put in the OBD2 sensor. Go figure. Okay, so now we've plugged those things back in. Let's see what our code reader tells us here. No, it's still telling us that we have that pressure controlled solenoid control circuit low. Don't understand that. Let's see if we can clear the code now because we've got that plugged back in. Okay, so we've erased the codes. We've got our baying beagle next door neighbor, Bruce the Beagle. No codes. Okay, so now we're not seeing anything. Alright, well that at least cleared those codes, so those shouldn't come back, but I'm not seeing the codes for the reason the check engine light came on in the first place with that issue on the highway, but maybe that was just a momentary thing and we can get it taken care of. Hey, you know what? Good sign here. No check engine codes, and the traction control light went off. Man, if I can get that thing to go off, I'd be happy as a pig in slop, I'm telling you, because that is a pain in the butt to try to get that traction control system light to come off. So that's good. Let's see if we can solve our issues from here. So we're off to a good start here in our second attempt at trying to solve the issues. We cleared the diagnostic codes. There's no check engine light. There's no traction control light. So in some of my research, when you're having some of these issues, potentially overfilled transmission fluid, it can bubble up, get aerated, can overflow, which is what I think we had happen. So in that situation with overheated transmission fluid, just for the sake of argument, we're going to drain this transmission again and we're going to fill it back up with some fresh transmission fluid. Hopefully we've got it at the right level and we can at least get it back to the baseline where we want it before we go ahead and change out those other shift solenoids. Thanks, Bruce. We appreciate your contributions to this video. I swear this beagle is driving me up the wall. Okay, guys, we took out we drained the transmission fluid out of this car after what happened on the highway with that getting overheated and blown out and everything. And there's a distinct smell in this transmission fluid like it was overheated, like maybe it was bubbling, boiling over, whatever, too much pressure, and it does not smell right. This is a brand new bottle, and I can tell you, it does not smell like the oil that came out of this transmission. There's definitely a distinct difference, so I'm glad we went ahead and drained out that oil after that incident on the highway. And we're going to use this fresh new transmission fluid on here instead, and hopefully that will help us solve some of the problem. Of course, the key thing is putting the right amount of transmission fluid on there. I was able to pop up on that, get underneath there, and see I popped that solenoid free. Oh, Bruce. Bruce. And if anybody has any recommendations out there on how to get your next door neighbor's beagle to stop baying all the time, please let me know. We have this little device to keep our dogs from barking when they're not supposed to. We've tried it on him, it has no effect. The Beagle is crazy, I'm telling you. I just don't know what to do. If you got any suggestions, let me know. Okay guys, so I decided before I put the transmission fluid back in and everything, we are going to go ahead and do these other shift solenoids. The one that I replaced in that previous video that you watched, which you can click on right here in the upper right hand corner, was this main shift solenoid that's right down in here. As you can see, that kind of matches it. So I think that one is okay. I'm not going to mess with that one. I thought what had happened on the way home is that this shift solenoid had blown out and we were going to have to replace it, but it appears to be fine. We just had stuff coming out that breather tube down there. So we are not going to do that one. We'll put that one aside. And if you were to change this one out, this is the gasket that goes with it, and you see you got these little O-rings. So we're going to put both of those aside. Now there's this single shift solenoid. That's a dual linear shift solenoid over there, but this is a single linear shift solenoid. We've got to replace that one. That one could be causing our original hard shift problem. Not sure. But we've also got these other little shift solenoids. We've got two of these with the brown connection, and then we've got two with the black connection. Of course, we've got to locate all of those. I know where two of them are. And then we've got these little ones here. I don't know if these are shift solenoids. I guess they are because it all came in the package, or these are just sensors of some kind. But they're on the side of the transmission as well. Gotta love all the high-powered shifting going on out there by the road. Anyway, so we are going to go ahead and attempt to change out all of these shift solenoids and get these in here, and we're hoping that will not only we're hoping that that will cure the hard shifting problem that we were having, that we tried to solve in the first video anyway. And this is part 2 of that, to try to solve that problem. Or we're going to have to look into other potential issues that are going on with this transmission. We're trying to take the most inexpensive route first by doing these shift solenoids ourselves, saving the time and cost and labor of taking it somewhere, and see if that solves the problem, along with changing the transmission fluid and adding it to the right level this time. And we'll see if that solves our problem. If not, we'll all find out at the end of this video. So hang in there and help us get through this. Oh, Bruce. Bruce. Try this kit yourself. Here's the one that I ordered off of Amazon, and there's the part number that goes with it. You see, even that transmission blew out like that. Look at this. All over here, all over our valve cover, which is all dried now. But down here, it's still wet and everything, and we're going to have to go ahead. I'm going to clean that up as much as I can so I know if it's leaking again in the future. The problem we're going to have now is trying to get you where you, the audience, can see what we're doing. There's a couple of those smaller shift solenoids right there that we got to try to change out. And then there's one of those single linear shift solenoids down here that we've got to try to get to as well. I could see it from the bottom side, and I'll try to get a shot in there for you as well. I may have to take out this starter to get to it. I can see a couple of the bolts from the bottom side. I don't know if I can get to all of the bolts, but we're going to try. Hey guys, we were able to finally get that bolt off that first one. I thought we were going to be able to unplug both of them, but we unplugged this first one with the brown connector on it, and we're going to have to get that out of there first. I had all I could do to get in there with a 10mm socket and a 1/4-inch ratchet, and there was not a lot of room in there. And there's really, I haven't figured out, maybe you guys can, if you can get this thing out of your way, it's hooked on a bracket down in there, then you can have some success possibly with getting your hands down there. But I'm having to try to do it anyway. So that little solenoid did not want to come out, but I got a flathead screwdriver under it. Let me see if I can show you that here. If I get the light just right, you'll be able to see what I did. There we go. There we go. Look, got it down in there. And so get it down in here. I was able to pop up on that, get underneath there, and see I popped that solenoid free. So we'll be able to get that one out, and we should hopefully get the one with the black connector out behind it. Stay tuned. Okay, so doing a little autopsy on this one. We pulled this one out, and it has got quite a bit of grime and stuff on it. I don't know if it's metal, but there's definitely some grit and other things there. And so it certainly wouldn't hurt after 260,000+ miles on this thing to go ahead and change this one out. And that's what we're going to do. You see it's got the brown connector on there. But before we can put this one back in, we've got to get that other one out. So there's that other connector down in there, or I mean that other solenoid. And so we're going to get the connector off of it, hopefully, and be able to take that second solenoid out. Wish us luck. I'm trying my best to get you a shot in there. You can see we got that connector off that second solenoid, what I had to do was get the flathead. I pushed that clip that's in there on top, and I pushed it in as far as I could. I think it cracked a little bit. I didn't push it the wrong way or break it off like I normally do, but once I pushed it in, it did kind of crack. Of course, you know, this thing is 20 years old, but the connector's still good, but it still did not want to come up, and I didn't have any room to really wiggle it and lift my hand up, but I did get the flathead screwdriver under it, turned the flathead screwdriver a little bit on its edge, underneath the edge of that connector, and I was able to pop that connector up. So now we're going to try to get to that last bolt over there. You see that 10 millimeter bolt down in there? Right down in there. If we can get that off, then we can get this second solenoid out. Guys, the mechanical gymnastics was at an all-time high. We got this other bolt out for that solenoid, but it was so far back in there that once I got my ratchet on it, and all I could use is a 1/4 inch ratchet. That handle does not have very much length. Maybe you have a 1/4 inch ratchet with a long handle, if there is such a thing. But I literally had to go PVC breaker bar again, mini style. I cut myself a piece this long, put it on the end of my 1/4 inch ratchet, and I was able to get enough leverage on it to loosen that bolt. Then, however, I had to put a adapter on top of the socket, and I still could not get my thumb in there far enough to turn this thing. So I'm sitting here going like this with my fingers, turn, 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 turn. And then I got the bolt loose enough that I was able to use my fingers, turn, turn. I'm telling you, if you can find a better way in there, do it, because mechanical gymnastics is real, and it is hard, and it is frustrating. Okay, hopefully now we've got this in such a way that you can see, you get the screwdriver underneath that shift solenoid, and I'm going to work it under there and hopefully start to get that thing out. Oh no, my flashlight went off. It's got that double setting on it there that you have to hit it twice, or it's only set to be on for like 15 seconds. Come on, shift solenoid. If I can get under you, I should be able to pop you out of there. Come on. Let me work it around a little bit. Yep, there we go. I was able to pop it. See that? It's loose. Talk about working in tight places. There we go. Now let's see if we can get that out. We're going to reach in there. Surgical gloves on. Tearing up. See if we got enough room. Pop that up, and out we do, but it wants to fall backwards. All right, I've got my fingers on the part of the place where the flange, where the bolt holds it down. Look at that. That is pretty crusty. That could be part of our problem. I hope it's not from the transmission self-destructing out there on that highway like I mentioned. But maybe that's just some buildup in there. Maybe that's one of the reasons why this thing is hard shifting. I don't know. But I'm going to be out with the old, in with the new here. It's kind of hard to tell, but that one actually is brown, even though it's got a bunch of buildup on it over the years. There's our two old solenoids, shift solenoids. There's a matching new one, still in the package. You know I like my newness, new parts. There's a matching new one that goes with it. So we're going to put the black one in first, because that's the second one we took out. One thing to tell you, when these shift solenoids are sitting there like this, it may seem like they're flat, but when I had the ratchet on the head of the bolt, it seemed like it was tilted back a little bit. I don't know if the engine's tilted back a little bit. You wouldn't think so with it being front wheel drive, but I think it is tilted back a little bit. So when you go to put the socket on there, and you go to put the ratchet on there, you kind of want to go this way with it, but it won't allow you because the bolt and everything, the head of it is tilted a little towards the back of the engine, towards the firewall. So be prepared for that, that it's not flat or level, it's tilted a little bit back. Okay, here we go. We're going to try to get the new solenoid in here, fresh newness out of the package. Now these gaskets are dry, so we need to put a little bit of transmission fluid on them so they'll slide down in there and they won't tear. So let me see if I can find some. I cleaned up. Oh, actually, yeah. Hold on. I've got my new transmission fluid. So we're going to open that up, dip our finger in there just a little bit, get some new fresh transmission fluid on it, lube up these O-rings just a little bit, help that thing to slide down in there. Now the way that was in there was like this, so you're going to want to put it down that way and make sure that you've got it oriented in such a way that this little flange out here lines up with the hole in the transmission block, and then you can put your bolt in. So here we go, we're going to give it a try. Okay, trying to get this thing down in here. Of course, you got to go from sideways to straight up and down. Hopefully there's enough room that you can orient that vertically once you get it back there. But then you need to double check and make sure it lines up with the hole. We're almost there. Get that down in there. Come on. Okay, I think we got her down in there. Let me double check. Yep, we've got it down in there. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we've got it down in there. As you can see, we've got it oriented, and the flange hole with the hole is over the opening, so we should be able to get the bolt in there. Then we'll put the connector in there. One solenoid down with 5 to go. Okay guys, a little update to save you some time. It's 45 minutes later, and I've just finally got this first solenoid in. I had it lined up and everything, and I had this tang over the hole, had it open, or over the hole and everything, trying to put the screw in it, and it just, the replacement, I believe, the hole on it, the offset is not quite the same where they drilled this hole compared to the original. So it was off just enough that when this was laying flat over the hole, I could not get that screw started or seated. So after getting frustrated, pulling the plug back off, trying to go back and forth, orient it, use my left hand, use my right hand, I finally figured out that if I just pull the shift solenoid up a little bit, get the screw down through the hole and started in the threading it in first before sitting this down on it, went a lot quicker. So save yourself some time. Don't seat this in all the way. Get the screw or the bolt started first, then push this down all the way and tighten up your bolt. It's still going to be really tight in there, unless of course you've got some way, if you don't care, you can take these hoses off, give yourself a lot more room. But I don't want to open this up, start having antifreeze going everywhere, and then having a radiator to refill. So I'm doing it the hard way, I guess. But we've got the first one in there, as you can see. And now we're going to do number 2, which is a little bit closer to us, and hopefully we'll get it done a lot quicker. Guys, like I told you, get that bolt seated first for putting that that retainer ring down even with the transmission block, and you'll have a lot easier time. That one took less than 5 minutes to get that one in. It's all plugged up. Now we got both of them in there. Only broke off one little squeeze clamp on the black one, but it's on there. It's not going anywhere. And now we get the fun of finding the other ones down here and getting those the other ones done. So 2 down, 3 to go. Okay guys, it's starting to get a little bit dark, but what we did was we took our skid plate off down here beneath the car, and that's way we could get to the front side of the transmission. So up in here, I am trying my darndest to film for you where things are, and I'm not having a lot of luck. So you guys, up there in the distance is the 2 smaller shift solenoids, and down over here is the linear shift solenoid. I'm going to try to get you some better angles here, but I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to or not. Guys, day 2 of working on the transmission again on this 2005 Honda Accord. We made quite a bit of progress yesterday. Unfortunately, when we got into the front of the car where the transmission is, it was very hard. We were losing a lot of light, and we weren't able to really get in there and show you, the audience, what it is that we were working on. But just to give you an idea of the kind of progress that we made, let me show you. Okay, you can see right here, these are 4 of the smaller shift solenoids that we got out of it. One brown, one black. I'll give you one guess as to which ones were on the front side of the transmission where all the oil was leaking. Yeah, these 2 right here. These 2 been covered in oil. We used to have valve covers leaking pretty bad on this over the years. I thought it was just the rear main seal, which is still leaking, but actually the valve covers were leaking. I replaced those a couple of years ago before I started doing videos on this car. But you know, a lot of dirt and oil buildup that's still on the front side of the transmission, which is making it a challenge. We literally had to unearth the bolts that were holding these shift solenoids in and getting all the dirt and oil off of them. And I'm going to try now to show you the progress that we made. But let me tell you one thing about these right here that's kind of different from these two. And it's right down in here. I got my spotlight down in here. Hopefully we can zoom in a little bit here and show you what we've got going. We got the first one of these shift solenoids out. This one right here. This one right here was on the lower side. So these two are sitting on top of each other like this in the transmission. Got this one out with the brown connector, no problem. This one though, this one right here, this one was a problem. It was butting up. When you try to take it out, the back of this was butting up against the starter. So what did we do? The bolts on the starter. You got that bolt right down there, and then down in here, see if I can show you, right down in there. Let me see, I'll use a pointer. Hang on just one second. There was the ear where the second bolt is for the starter. So what did we do in that case? We took that bolt down on the bottom side of the starter completely out. We loosened this bolt down in here. With the zooming here with these phones, they like to focus on the closest thing. We loosened that bolt up there, and then what we did is we took our one hand and we tilted the starter up from where it was resting, tilted it up out of the way, slid it back over that way, and then we were able to pull that shift solenoid out. So again, a little bit of mechanical gymnastics, but the only way to get that shift solenoid on the side here with the black connector out is to unbolt the starter, not all the way, take the bottom bolt out, loosen the top bolt up here, slide it this way, lift it up towards the top of the engine, and get it out of the way so you can pull out that shift solenoid. Then guess what? You gotta sneak that shift solenoid in there, get that bolt back into place while holding up the starter all at the same time. Fun stuff, but it's doable. If I can do it, you definitely can do it. Hopefully you can see up in there, you see that top one with the black connector? See where the starter bolt and the place where it goes in on the starter right there, the flange, that is right in the way of trying to get that one out. But we did get them out. They're right here on the side. What you have to do again is take down the front fender skirt here. You can get your hand up in here, up inside, and get to work up in there. And the other, see if I can show you here. Hang on just a second. This is really hard. There's just not a lot of room. All right, we are right up against the underside of the transmission, and right in between there, hopefully, let's see if I can get it right. I can see it, but I'm just not sure you can. There we go. A little further up. There it is. There is the other shift solenoid right there on the bottom side. It's got 4 bolts and a plug or connector. So we have got to try to get that shift solenoid off of there. And then you see that right back down in there? I'll put a little arrow on the edited part of the video. That's one of those other little sensors that's got to be replaced. And there's one other sensor with a brown connector that I haven't located yet, but I know it's got to be on the front side of the transmission. I've looked on the back side and haven't seen anything else, so I'm assuming everything is here on the front side. We just got to try to find it. So I'm going to get those things changed out. I just don't have room, guys, to video this in here and get you guys in here as well, but I can show you the results. As here's those next 2 components we're trying to put in again. This, I believe, is a little sensor. And when I took the plug off on the one I was showing you on the video, it actually is the brown one, not the black one. I still haven't located that yet, but we're going to take this off probably with a metric wrench, whatever size this is. I got to figure that out. And then, again, as I was telling you, here's that single linear shift solenoid. It sits in there like this on the side, on the side of the transmission. And as you can see, there's 4 bolts. We're going to, again, have to get all the crud, oil, and dirt buildup off of there, and then get these 10mm bolts off. And then we're going to put that other one back on in the same orientation. And as you can see here, it's already got a gasket installed. We're We're going to lube that up a little bit with some transmission fluid. Same thing here. We got this. See, it's got a little rubber O-ring. We're going to lube that up with a little bit of transmission fluid too. Get that in there. Make sure we plug this sensor in the right way. And then, of course, we've got to find the last one that we have. Let me show you that here. And that's this one. See this? It's got a black plug. Haven't located it yet, but we will before this video is over. You guys, we got the old sensor out right here, and found out it was easier to go in from the left side here behind or in front of the left front wheel. I'll show you that in a second, but notice the difference here. This one's got a flat surface and it had a crush washer. This one has sort of a raised surface right here and an O-ring. I put this in and started to tighten this down, and the O-ring was snugging up to it, but it was leaving a little bit of a gap. The gap was about the same thickness as this crush washer. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this O-ring off and use the crush washer. Yeah, I know you're not supposed to reuse crush washers, but guess what? I don't have another one this size. So we're going to just have to put it in and send it, as they say. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put this one in with that crush washer, and hopefully it'll snug up and we won't have any leaks. Okay guys, here it is coming in from the left front wheel. You can see the sensor there that we just changed. I had to use a crescent wrench. I do not have a big enough metric. My biggest metric socket is 19 millimeters. I think it may take a 20 or a 21, so make sure you got some sockets that are bigger than 19 millimeters, and also deep well, because you have to get over that connector right there too. 7/8 will work, but I didn't have a 7/8 socket that was deep enough, and I just found it easier to use a crescent wrench. Not ideal, but I did get it in there, and as you can see just past there, I'll hopefully put a little arrow on there too, you can see that single linear shift solenoid right there. So we're going to start working on that next, and maybe this is a way to get in there and get that done. We'll see. Okay guys, welcome to day 3 of working on our 2005 Honda Accord V6, trying to get the shift solenoids replaced in this transmission. Let's give you an update on our progress so far. So this is where we've made progress so far. We've got these 4 smaller shift solenoids out, this one little sensor here, and we were finally able to get out this single linear shift solenoid. We were really struggling with that yesterday, but we'll tell you what we ended up doing here. And we've still got 2 to go here. We've got this one little sensor, and I decided after doing some thinking about it, probably thought about it too much, so I'm going to go ahead and change out this dual linear shift solenoid as well. I know we replaced that in the last video, but after what happened on the highway and everything, I thought, you know what? No sense having 5 out of 6 new parts. Let's have 6 out of 6 new parts. Through most of what I was trying to do down here, I was struggling trying to get things done from the bottom and off to the side through the left front fender well. And I just decided after that I needed to take out the battery. And then, of course, that necessitated taking out the battery tray as well. Let me show you that here. It sits over here with 2 bolts on the top, and unfortunately there's 2 bolts on the side as well. You have to kind of do some gymnastics here to get your arm underneath here, get underneath here with extensions, and I think it was, no, maybe it was a 12 millimeter socket. Yep, 12 millimeter. Get under there, loosen those up, and take this off, and I'll tell you, it was the difference between night and day down here. Look, easier get to that shift solenoid. I could, from the bottom, get the 2 bolts from the bottom side of this shift solenoid, but I could not get to these top 2. But once I took out the battery and the battery tray, got to it simply. Could also get to this sensor here simply, which I actually did the hard way. So a little forethought, you know, nobody wants to take off more than they have to. I didn't want to loosen up this starter to get out that shift solenoid down there, but I did. That made it easier. And if I'd thought about it, trying to get from the top down, it would have been easier to just go ahead, take out the battery and the battery tray, and get to these 2 right here. So now we're going to take out this shift solenoid that we changed out in the last video, and we're going to find that last little sensor. I did some research last night. It's somewhere along in here. Got to find it, change that out, and then we'll have all 6 components changed out on this transmission. Going to fill it up with some new transmission fluid. Hopefully that solves our problem that we haven't solved so far with the hard shifting, and we won't have a repeat of what happened on the highway. Wish us luck. One of the things I'm going to do after unplugging this and before I take off the shift solenoid is I'm going to clean up this area that got flooded with transmission fluid when everything came out this breather tube. So we're going to go ahead and get that done, clean this up, take these bolts off, get this old shift solenoid, second shift solenoid off, and put the third shift solenoid on, and then get done with that other sensor. Okay, despite the fact we just recently put this dual shift solenoid on the car, and we put some RTV on there, this thing came apart in pieces. I don't know about these paper gaskets, but I mean, it is what it is. That's what the replacement has as well, what we're going to put on there. So we're going to put a little bit more RTV on there, because when we cleaned this up before, it got to, and you look in that last video, we had to use a Dremel tool and all sorts of things, and so it pitted this just a little bit, and in order to make sure that seals, we're putting a little bit of RTV on that gasket to make sure that we don't have any leaks or anything. Looking at this recently installed dual shift solenoid and also just taking it off, it looks fine, but again, it was part of that event on the highway, so we don't know if it's been affected negatively, so we're going to go ahead and replace this too. Okay, found out my little microphone connection wasn't working, so I'm sure you didn't hear anything, so let me repeat that. Again, we've got the gasket on now. We put some RTV on the back side of this gasket, got a little bit on this side because the RTV was on our hands. But putting this back on, you've got these three little filter screens through the center. Put the gasket over those, and once that get aligned, pat it down all the way around, make sure it's flush with the mounting surface, and you're ready to go. And what we did here on this replacement shift solenoid is we've got these three O-rings. We lubed them up a little bit with some transmission fluid for sticking them in there so that they go in there smoothly, don't catch any edges, don't tear, and you keep a seal. So now these are flush down in there, and this shift solenoid is ready to go back on the transmission. Okay, for guys like us who don't do this all the time, just to give you a little heads up, you got 6 bolts. So what we did is we started with the 2 in the center, got those snug down. That helps seat that down square in the center, rather than doing it from side to side where it could be off center and maybe not seat the way it's supposed to. Then once we got all the bolts down, we started snugging them, sort of like in a pattern when you're putting your lugs back on your wheels. We started tightening this one down, went to this one, went from this one to this one, to this one, over here, over there, and then finished up over here. So we kept doing that until we got them all snug down, and then we tightened them in that same way. Started tightening here, 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 and then crisscrossing back and forth until we got it all snug down and torqued down. Yep. Don't know what the torque specs are, but they're torqued. Now, the final thing is, we're going to go ahead, put this plug back on. Hopefully you can make sure it clicks. I didn't really hear it click, but it's not coming off. And we're going to put the black one on. There's only one way for it to go on. Make sure you have it with these release clips on here on the top. Get that on there. There you go. Heard it click that time. So now that's all installed. Kind of cleaned up the area once we took the other shift solenoid off. Now we've got to find that last sensor, which is supposedly somewhere over in here. Good luck with us finding that. And once we get that changed out, then we're ready to put this thing back down on the ground, get some transmission fluid in it. Hopefully the right amount this time, not too much. And hopefully the problem has been solved, especially with that issue that we had on the highway, and hopefully the hard shifting will go away too. It's going to be kind of hard to tell in the hot weather. It doesn't really do that hard shifting like it does in the wintertime when the transmission fluid is thicker, but now that we've got new shift solenoids in here, the transmission fluid should flow a lot easier. There shouldn't be any gunk or grime or buildup in those shift solenoids since they're new, and hopefully this thing will shift good and smooth and we won't have any more problems. Guys, a little bonus content for you. Notice this here? New transmission mount. Notice here, old transmission mount. Look at how cracked that is. Years ago, when I moved up here to Tennessee, almost 10 years ago, I was staying with some of my wife's family, and their son did a lot of roadside work for diesel trucks and things like that, and he had a mobile unit. He helped me replace all these motor mounts and things at the time, but one of the things we did not get to was this transmission mount, and so this has been broken here for a long time. And so since we've got all this clear, the battery and the battery tray clear, we're going to go ahead and try to attempt to get the transmission mount out and replaced on this top side. And look, fun stuff. 3 bolts here on the underside, but we're going to go ahead and give it a go, see if we can get this thing off and put a new transmission mount on here while we're servicing the rest of this car. Also, been looking, I have looked high, I have looked low, I have looked all over this transmission, backside, front side. Diagrams tell me it's somewhere over in here. Again, I can't see under here without taking this whole thing off, but I don't even see a wire leading to here for that extra sensor that we still have. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here it is. So again, little sensor here with black connector. I have looked all over the place. Again, we replaced the one with the brown connector down here yesterday. I have been able to pretty much 95 to 99% look all the way around this transmission up to where it meets the engine. I've even looked on some parts of the engine just in case, but I cannot find where this is on this transmission. Maybe mine doesn't have it. Most likely it does, or they wouldn't have put it in the kit, but I swear I can't find it. If you can find it, go ahead and replace it. Let me know in the comments if you've done this yourself and where this is actually located. Maybe show us a picture of where it's located. I have no idea, so I'm going to have to move on at this point. Again, we're doing some extra anyway with changing out this transmission mount, but after that, we've got everything else done. We're going to fill it up with the right amount of transmission fluid, get this thing going, and see if it works right. All right, guys, so we got this transmission mount out. As you can see, 20-year-old original transmission mount, pretty gacked up. One thing to keep in mind is all these parts are different sizes. This bolt goes in the plate here at the top. These 2 bolts on each side of the mount, right here. These 2 right here are longer than the one that goes here, so make sure you don't get those messed up. So 2 longer bolts here, shorter bolt here, and the longest bolt goes right here on the top of the transmission mount. So don't get those out of order. So now we're ready to put in this fresh transmission mount here and get this thing put back together if I don't lose it down in between the engine and the radiator. There we go. So we're going to get that thing right down in there, get that mounted up. Well, actually, that's the old one. Here's the new one over here. So we're going to get that in here, mounted up, and ready to go. So don't put your old transmission mount in. Make sure you're putting your new one in. Okay, again, had to kind of do a little bit of finger gymnastics here with the bolts. Got this in here, got this one in here, and this center bottom one here is really tight, but you can kind of get your hand in on this side and on this side and kind of finger tighten this in here. If it tightens up a little bit on you, what I had to do in order to get this bolt even out, this center bottom bolt, was a 14mm wrench. There's not enough room in here. You got a really tiny socket and you can actually get enough leverage on it with a tiny ratchet handle, good on you. But I had to use a 14mm wrench. And now I've got these back in here, but before I tighten them down, I'm going to get this plate back on here. And I noticed on the back of this plate, look at this orientation. This is how it was on here. So that's how you're going to want to put it back on here, because this oblong shape right here, it's not going to fit if you go like this. It's not going to square up the way that it should. So make sure you get it on here right. And once you get it on here, you'll feel it. It's tight right on there. Then you're able to put this bolt, the longest bolt of all the bolts out of the 4, on here and get this thing tightened back down, and you've got a fresh transmission mount on here, and hopefully that'll keep your transmission from shaking around, provide a little more stability, and there you go. All right, guys, one other thing I noticed, I'm about to put this battery tray back on, and look, it's got slots here instead of holes, and that's great. We're able to put our bolts on first onto the frame there and slide this over. It'd be a lot more difficult if these were enclosed holes on here, rather than being able to slip that on over the bolts once they're in the holes. So now we'll be able to get those on there and make our battery tray support installation a little bit easier. Just a little heads up there so you aren't trying to jockey with it and you realize that all I got to do is put the bolts on and slide that over it. All right, guys, so we've got the airbox cleaner put back in and everything. Had to blow out the air filter with my air compressor. Yeah, I know you're saying, well, you went to all this effort to make these changes. Why didn't you put a new air filter in it? Well, I forgot to order one, and I'm up against it at this point, so we just cleaned out the air filter. You guys remind me next time, ask me if I've changed out that air filter, and I'll let you know. One of the things putting this back in, again, had to take the map sensor connector off, get this routed back in here, get this in here. Make sure you put this on, you get that fault code like I was getting. Also, make sure your flex hose going over here to the throttle body is all the way around. Got a feel for that, make sure it's all the way around. I've had check engine codes come up because this was not on there properly, so make sure this is on there properly. Get this other tube hooked back in properly as well. Again, got the battery all in, mounted down secure. Got my battery terminals on, put a little bit of battery protector spray on there, and put 2.5 quarts of transmission fluid in, and right down in there, the area where the plug is, so that's where we put it in. Some people say, put it through the dipstick tube. Do you see how small that is? And the plug is right there. All you need is a flexible hose funnel like this, although I've stepped on this one and it's leaking a little bit now. I'm going to have to get another funnel, but this is cheap, got it on Amazon. Just don't step on your funnel hose and you won't have to worry about it. That sounded kind of weird, didn't it? Anyway, we're ready to put 2.5 quarts of transmission fluid in. A lot of them say maybe 3.5. I put a little less than more, so I can add some. It's a lot easier to add some than to take some out. So we're going to go ahead and get it started up, get it heated up, turn it off, check the fluid level, add a little bit more if we need to, and then take it out for a test drive. All right, no check engine light, no traction control, so we're off to a good start. This is my second time starting it. I forgot to hit record. Did hear a little noise when I first started it up. I think it was the transmission fluid circulating up into those shift solenoids, which didn't have any fluid into them, but now it's quiet as can be. We're going to back it off the ramps, let it warm up, check the fluid level, and go from there. All right, so we've been cleaning up our mess and everything. Got a little bit left to put away. Fans are coming on the car, so it's warmed up now. We're going to shut her down, check the transmission fluid hot with it not running. We just got done running it, as we said. We've pulled the dipstick out. We're going to wipe it off, double check it, see how much more we need to add, if any. All right, here we go. There's nothing really showing on the dipstick, so it looks like we got to add at least 1/2 quart more and double check it again. Guys, we've been warming it up, fiddling with it for a while to make sure we get the right amount of transmission fluid in it. I think we're just about there, so let's see if we've got the right amount. Guys, as you can see there, if you can see the sheen in there, it's just below the max mark there, that second hole, the one to the left. And so we've got just the right amount of transmission fluid in there. A lot of the videos say it's 3.5 quarts of transmission fluid, sometimes 4. Mine was between 3.5 and 4 to get it just right. So I think we've got the right amount in there. Been shifting it back and forth. It hard shifted a couple of times, but at that point I'd only had about 2.5 quarts of transmission fluid in it. Now that I've got the right amount in there, it appears to be shifting in reverse the way it should without slamming. So we're going to give it a test drive here and see if we've got the problem cured. We're ready to go for that test drive. Actually, while we were here, we went ahead and checked the oil. It was a little low, not because it's burning oil, but because we've got that rear main seal leak there between the transmission and the engine, which we've never replaced. So it does leak out a little bit. 200 and almost 65,000 miles. This thing still runs pretty good. And now we'll find out if the transmission runs better. All right, guys, here we go on our not so maiden voyage. I guess maiden voyage for these new shift solenoids. Starting up smooth, the air conditioner going, it's still summer. All right, come on, baby, go in reverse. All right, good. No big clunk that time. That's a good sign. Let's see if we can get out of here. I think we're going to have to back out through the front yard because we've got too many vehicles here right now. All right, guys, here we go. One of the key things too, besides it backing up without it shifting hard into reverse, is to actually get it back up to highway speed again and see if we can get it back up into 5th gear, because when it failed on the highway there, or acted up on the highway, we lost 5th gear at that time. So here we go. We're going to test it out. All right, here we go. Make a quick left here without getting killed. Come on, baby, shift. Come on, shift solenoids. Alright guys, our overall conclusion after taking the test drive is something is seriously wrong with this transmission. I don't know if it's shot at this point or what. Took it out, Could barely get it into first gear. It would go into second gear, but only after revving it up to 5,000 or 6,000 RPMs. Could never get it to go into third, fourth, or fifth. I had to back up a few times and turn around. It did go into reverse, but not well. So it's sicker than it's ever been. And at this point, I need some help. If you guys have any answers for me at this point, let me know. I changed every shift solenoid in this thing, less that one sensor with the black connector. I doubt that was the problem, but we just don't have a fix for this. My next solution is possibly transmission change. I don't know. Tell me what you think before we go that far. I'm looking for some donor candidates right now in our local area for a 3-liter V6 5-speed automatic transmission, EX 4-door. I've been looking around, got a few candidates, but I want to know if you guys have got an answer out there to what you think the problem is after watching this episode and the one before that on this car and this transmission problem. Let me know. Again, hope you got something out of that. Hope you were able to learn how to take out those different shift solenoids if that's what you're trying to do to solve your problem. And if you like what we're doing, hey, appreciate you watching this far. Go watch another one of our videos because subscribers help, but the length of time you guys watch these videos help us grow even more. So watch the videos, watch them all the way through, watch as much as you can. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you on the next one. And stay tuned to see more from me, Earl with an E.